In most pool games, there's nothing more important than the break, and that's particularly true in 8 ball, 9 ball, and 10 ball. If you can throw a professional fastball, then you can power break, and that's because it's not about power at all, it's about the speed of your cue stick. Now, how accurate you can be with the power break comes down to you and how much work you want to put into this. On this particular day, I was struggling with the accuracy of my power break, so I decided to take some time and work on it, and in the meantime, make this video. We're about to go over every single little part of the power break, and it's going to seem like a lot to remember and a lot to put together. What I recommend you doing is practicing it off table, and then little by little bring it to the table, starting out softly and getting progressively hard as your accuracy gets better and better. The main thing you're trying to do with the cue ball is bounce it off the top of the rack to one ball and bounce it backwards and park it at center table or as close to center table as you can get. And this goes hand in hand with making one of the wing balls and getting the one ball by the upper corner pocket. Parking the cue ball at center table will almost guarantee you that you'll have a good shot on the one ball if you're able to do it hand in hand with getting that one ball near the upper corner pocket. This is the only pull shot that you want to come up on. All the other pull shots you want to stay down and keep your body down on the shot. In this one, halfway through the shot, your body's going to come up to add weight to the power stroke, which will increase the speed of the stroke. So you'll be using your own body weight to increase the speed of your cue stick. There are 16 things you have to know, and you might want to get out a notebook or something and take notes of this because there's a lot to remember. Number one is to stretch your back out and to keep it stretched out throughout your time playing pool that day. Every single morning I wake up with an aching back, and part of that is because of my age, but a bigger part is I can't tell you how many times I strained my back out in the bars and pool rooms doing this. Just because I forgot to stretch my back, I don't forget anymore. Yeah, to make this video, I have to take for granted that you're right-handed. I know some of you are left-handed, and if that's you, just reverse anything that I say about right foot or left foot or right arm or left arm or right hand or left hand. Number two is to jack up on the grip of the pool cue. I bring my right hand all the way up to the top of the rack and much closer to the joint of the cue. Number three is to utilize a sideways stance. Now, this isn't 100% necessary. You can still power break with a regular stance. It's just something that I do because I find it easier to get the entire weight of my body into the stroke with a sideways stance. Number four is to find the line. Now, there's a little bit of confusion here on where the line is on the break. So I want to make a graphic and show you exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of newer players are under the assumption that you aim for the center of the one ball, which they think is here. So that would only be true if you're breaking from the center, which would be right here, which you never want to do when playing 9 ball or 10 ball, because that's going to force the one ball straight back at the cue ball, and it's going to knock the cue ball all the way back up table, and the one ball could go anywhere when the the whole key to this is in controlling that one ball and getting it right up in this area for that corner pocket. So from here, the center of the one ball would be right here. If you aim for this spot on the one ball while breaking from here, the cue ball is going to go straight into this rail and further down the table, and it's just going to be a bad break, and you're probably going to hook yourself. So breaking from here forces the one ball up in this direction right here, while still parking the cue ball in the center of the table. So you're getting the cue ball out of the way of the one ball, and you're keeping the one ball out of the way of the cue ball. So with all that said, this is the line you want to get down on if you're breaking from this position. Number 5 is using a closed bridge. Now, lately, there's some guys coming onto the pull scene, like Alyssa's Yap, who's using an open bridge and still power braking, which kind of boggles my mind. But he's doing it, so if this becomes a trend, and he's winning, so if this becomes a trend, we might have to rethink this. But for now, use a closed bridge. Make sure your eyes are level and your head's not cocked to the sideways. When good players who are struggling to get better are struggling, a lot of times they have their head cocked to the right if they're right-handed, or to the left if they're left-handed when they're getting down on the brake. You're going to be consciously putting a whole lot of weight on that bridge hand, and you're going to even put more weight on it as you go through the stroke of the brake, because your body weight is going to be pushing down on that brake hand. I bend both of my knees during the brake, and this is not a proper pull stance, but this is what I do, but you'll see what happens as I go through the brake. Look at my left thigh when I'm just getting set and getting my stance ready. You'll see it's almost touching the pull table. Then I bend back from there. But as I'm touching the pull table with my left thigh, I'm planting my left foot. If you want a loose grip on the brake, just make sure it's not going sideways and it's going straight back and forth toward the shot. And you're going to be snapping that wrist and grip close as you come into contact with the cue ball. During the pullback of the stroke, notice how the heel of my left foot comes up. Also, during this time, in between the pullback and the follow-through and the forward motion of the cue, my right leg is straightening, my left leg is bending even further, and I'm going forward into the table to where my thigh is almost touching the table, which brings us straight back to the start of getting set on the stance. And while all that is happening, you are raising your body up and bending straight up from the trunk at the same time that you're pushing forward. So you're coming up kind of diagonal. And again, this is the only pull shot that you want to come up on. On all other pull shots, you want to stay down on the shot. So don't let this become a habit other than during the break. The break calls for a massive long follow through, and I've seen really good players follow through all the way to the rack spot. Now, you don't have to go to that extreme, but the follow through on the break shot should be way longer than any other shot you take and pull. At the point of contact in the cue ball, your wrist and your grip should snap closed and tight. The tip of your pull cue should end up on the table, down on the table, and usually press down to where the shaft of your cue is bending, because your bridge hand is keeping it down. That will ensure you that your tip stays down on the table. Alright, can you remember all that? Go ahead and work on it, and if you struggle to pull it all together, you know, we all struggle. I mean, it's part of it. It's what we have to do. And you're going to watch a series of video clips where I struggled with this for 2.5 hours until I finally let up on the brake and tried to find out step by step what I was doing wrong. And I finally brought it all together and started nailing it at the end of this video. It's tough, man. It's the toughest shot in the pool to perform consistent. Just stick with it, you'll get it, and then you're going to be truly on your way. Alright, I believe here's where I started slowing down the stroke, and you'll notice I'm staying down on the cue ball. And all I'm trying to do here is dial in my accuracy so I can slowly pick it up and increase the speed until I'm nailing both accuracy and the power. So this is what I recommend doing. I mean, if you're out there for 2 to 3 hours just doing nothing but practicing your brake and it's just not working, you might want to slow it down a little bit and try to bring it all together and then pick up the speed. And this one does it. For some reason I'm braking in the center table, but if I wasn't, the one ball would not have hit it and I would have been perfect. So now I'm going to pick it back up and see what happens.